Good morning, everyone. It's Sal, Stretford Post. How you're doing? And welcome to another episode of Breaking Dawn. I hope you're doing good. I hope you're doing fine. Thank you, guys, for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Guys, before I start, though, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to smash a like on the video. Don't forget to put your notifications on. Much love to every single one of you legends, of course, guys. You are the reason for the channel. Thank you so much, guys. Now, look, guys, look, it is a bit boring without Manchester United playing, of course. We haven't played for decades, it seems, doesn't it? We still have to wait a couple of weeks before we actually play a football match, which is crazy, guys. When I think about it, like it's FA Cup this weekend. I don't know why Man United don't play at the weekend. I really don't. I don't know why we don't just shift the game into the weekend rather than just watching the FA Cup. Like it's watching paint dry at the end of the day, isn't it? Man City against Liverpool. God blimey, Man City against Liverpool. Entertaining, not. Now, guys, look, I want to get into some Manchester United news. Of course, I do. And I want to get into some Manchester United transfer news, of course, guys, which is why we're here, which is what is most important, guys. First of all, I want to talk about Cole Palmer. Now, obviously, there's lots of links surrounding Manchester United, surrounding Cole Palmer, about a potential move to Manchester United. Now, look, obviously, there's mixed feelings about this still. Look, I'm never going to discount Cole Palmer. I think Cole Palmer is a very good player. He's on the brink of world class. However, he has got a little bit of an injury record, which plagues him at the moment. I think he's an incredibly talented player and would be a fantastic signing for Manchester United. I really do. However, would he be a priority for Man United? Now, my only feeling about this deal, or my only bone about this deal, is that if Bruno leaves, then you can bring in like a Cole Palmer to come and fill the void of Bruno. Not that anyone can fill the void of Bruno, but you know, it would be a good signing for Man United to replace Bruno, so to speak. But if Bruno Fernandes stays at Manchester United, I can't for the life of me see why Manchester United will spend about 100 million plus on Cole Palmer. Now, that begs the question, doesn't it? Why are we signing Cole Palmer? Why would we sign Cole Palmer? Now, my feeling is that Cole Palmer is a financially profitable player. I think he sells shirts and he would bring in money to Manchester United. And I think this is how Ineos and the Glazers think at the moment. They're more interested in bringing players like Cole Palmer that make money as well. As rather than bringing in a player that, you know what, is talented. Like, for example, I'll give you an example, right? If Man United brought in, for example, Elliot Anderson, right? Elliot Anderson wouldn't really be a shirt seller, would it? I do feel like Cole Palmer would be a shirt seller. And I think this is why Manchester United would want to bring in Cole Palmer into the football club, not just based on his talent, because I rate him very highly, but Manchester United will spend the money on a player like Cole Palmer for shirts. And I just believe that at the moment. And I think that is the real reason why Manchester United would fight tooth and nail for him. Look, that's not discounting his talent. That's not discounting who he is, the player he is. He's an absolutely incredible player. I agree with that. Absolutely. No one could take that away from him. I think he's one of England's most important players when he's fit and when he's ready. But when we're looking at everything and we're looking at the injury record, we're looking at the price tag on his head. It is a little bit, strange that Manchester United will be going for him at this moment in time, considering the amount of work that Man United need in this squad. Now, look, nothing is solidified. Nobody has made a bid for Cole Palmer, but the rumors keep spreading. And I've always believed that there's no smoke without fire, especially when it comes to transfer rumors, especially if a transfer keeps resurfacing to this every now and then. The same player keeps getting mentioned. It does seem a little bit strange that Man United wouldn't be going after him right now with all these links to him. And being a Man United fan, as Cole Palmer is, he's a Man United fan, of course. I do think that, Man United are very, very interested in making that move. I do. I think Man United are incredibly desperate to make that move, so to speak, because the shirt sales, the amount of money they can make from profits from the shirt sales and stuff like that, of course, guys, absolutely. But I want to know your opinions, guys. Do you want Cole Palmer at Manchester United? Would you like Cole Palmer at Manchester United, guys? I want a constructive argument in regards to this. How do you feel about Cole Palmer coming to Manchester United? Would you be happy with that deal? Now, I want you to put into context Man United squad, what we need as well, and what's the priority for Manchester United at this moment in time. What is the priority for Manchester United? Is a player like Cole Palmer the priority for Manchester United? Do you think so? Let me know what you think, guys. Hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to the stream. Welcome. Hope you're all doing well. Big up my friend Paul. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Big up Nikki. Hope you're doing well. Good to see Nikki back in the house. Good to see you. Big up Max. Hope you're good. Good to see you, of course. Big up Max in the house, of course. Good morning, Sal. Good morning, Ephraim. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you again. And good morning, Sanjay. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you again. The legends, the regulars, the legends are in the house. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys. I hope you're all doing well. Hope everything's blessed with you on this Monday morning, guys. Time is flying, guys, when you're having fun. Not, guys, absolutely no Man United playing, so it's no fun. So what do you guys think about the Cole Palmer situation? Now, look, you know what? I'm a bit conflicted. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm a bit like, you know, I mean, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. If Cole Palmer was a 40 million payer and we bring him in, I'm not going to have any problems with that. But when you have 100 million, look, guys, I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those spending police, because I think Ineos needs to spend money. And I think Man United need to spend money. So I'm not sitting there saying that, oh, no, we don't want to sign him because he costs so much money. My biggest problem is that if we sign him, we're going to take away the budget from our midfield and from our fullbacks that we actually need, you know, at the end of the day. So that is my biggest problem, which is why I said if we sold Bruno Fernandes, then I would say, yeah, then we need to bring in Cole Palmer. But if we don't sell Bruno Fernandes, then it will be a little bit of a waste of budget to bring in Cole Palmer, in my humblest of opinions. And I think that, you know, as much as it will be a fantastic signing, if we got the left back, the right back, the centre midfielders fixed, then I'll be all on Cole Palmer. You can say, okay, you can get a Diamande or a Cole Palmer or Keenan Yildiz or someone like that. That would be great. You know what I mean? But we have to fix the problems in the football club right now. Of course, that's what I would say. Morning, Robert. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. Palmer be a good squad depth for Champions League. I don't. Palmer we good to squad depth. 100 million squad depth is a lot of money, Nikki. You know, and he's 100 million. What we have to do is, I want people to come on in there and come on maturely. Think about the money. Think about what Man United need. Squad depth. We ain't even got a midfield, bruv. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, why are we talking about squad depth? We got no midfield. Now, if this money was taken away from Man United's budget in that midfield, would you still go after Cole Palmer is the question. Cole Palmer would be a quality signing, but prefer PSG's Kvaratskhelia. Kvaratskhelia, obviously, Man United were linked to him a long time ago before he went to PSG. As you know, I was mentioning him on Stretford Post a number of times. But again, he's going to cost a lot of money, David. And David, will this affect Man United's midfield, which is the priority? This is the thing. This is why Man United fans get manipulated, because they get manipulated by the superstar signings, the shirt sellers and things like that. And this is where we have to go away and think about things maturely. You know what I mean? I want people to come in here and say, I like Palmer, but you know what? He's going to cost a lot of money. He's going to harm our prospects of signing midfielder. Now, obviously, I do hope that Man United sign a Palmer or sign a Kvaratskhelia and together with the midfield and stuff like that. Of course I would, but we know that Ineos are not going to go out there and buy these players, isn't it, mate? You know, and this is the thing I would say. And I think this is the way I look at it at the end of the day. You know, the thing is that just like this kind of opinion is that Ineos are looking at shirt sellers, right? And this is what I've been saying. Like, Ineos are looking at shirt sellers. Ineos are looking at players that can come in and sell shirts, you know, and that's what it is. And what we need is a squad. Is a team that can compete. Now, we don't have a midfield. Obviously, we're going to lose Casemiro. That's been confirmed. We're going to lose Casemiro. We probably lose Ugarte as well. So, look, we're looking at that midfield and think we have to solidify the midfield before we do anything else. And the wing-backs. Of course, in football, everyone gets excited about the attacking players. Everyone's so excited about the guys who do the goals and make the assists and stuff like that. I've been a defender in my life. Right, I've been a defender in my life, so I look at defenders, I look at the midfield, and I look at that, and I look at things like that because I believe that's where the team gets built. The icing on the cake is extra. Now we got Embremo, Cunha, Bruno, Shea Lacey, JJ Gabriel's coming through the ranks as well. Let's not underrate this guy. He's going to be a superstar. You know, we got those players. We still got Xerxes at the football club. So why would we bring in a Kvaratskhelia? You know, we got Patrick Dorgu who can play on the left. Why would we bring him in and spend all that money when we need a midfield? Absolutely. I like it, but we have to solve our priority first. Exactly that, Ephraim, and that's a great comment. Exactly. Look, I respect people's comments and I respect what people feel about things, but if you can't see the problem at Man United right now, which has been there, guys, for years, not only this season, years, this problem has been there. What's the problem? Man United's midfield. That has been the problem at Man United for ages, guys. Near a decade, I would say. It's a decade, I would say. I think the last great midfielder to play for Man United was Michael Carrick. I know that Casemiro is a great midfielder, but I'm talking about players that signed at their peak. Less than their peak, like 24, 25 years old. Casemiro was past his peak, in my opinion, which is why Real Madrid sold him in the end. Do you know what I mean? So I would say what we have to do, we have to look at things, say, okay, we want Cole Palmer. That's great. We want Cole Palmer, but let's fix the midfield first. Let's fix the fullbacks. Let's get the squad fixed properly. Then we can think about the icing and the cherry on the cake, if you know what I mean. Now, even when we're thinking about attacking players, we don't really need a Cole Palmer type of player. In particular, if Bruno Fernandes stays, we need more or less a right and a left, more than a centre, if you know what I mean. So I would say that right now, I would say that if Man United had already signed Anderson and Stiller and bought a couple of a right back, a left back, I would think, yeah, look, you know what, go and get the attacking players, go and get a Diomande, a Kenan Yildiz, go and get a Cole Palmer, go and get one of these players. I would say that. But at the moment, we do have to look at things critically, and we do have to look at things from a point of view, what is needed at this football club. It's not just about bringing in the fashionable players, because that is not going to win us leagues. Foundation will win us leagues. Getting the defense sorted out, get the midfield sorted out, get the fullback sorted out. We have no overlapping runs on the fullback areas. We have no crosses coming in from the fullback areas. We have no danger coming from the fullback areas. So we do need right wing back, left wing back, and stuff like that, in my opinion. At the end of the day, I would say that. And I would also add that with fixing this midfield, it would actually help our attack as well. If we fix the midfield, I think it will actually help and contribute to our attack being more potent and more creative, because at the moment it seems like we're a little bit inconsistent. We don't have a partnership, and it's something that I mentioned last week about partnerships in the team. We don't have partnerships. For example, two midfielders, the partners, two centre-backs, the partners, the right back and the right midfield. They need to create a partnership. The left back and the left midfield, they need to create a partnership. It's what we used to do back in the day when we used to have Gary Neville and David Beckham, or Dennis Owen and Ryan Giggs, or, the midfield Scholes and Keane. We used to have that, or Dwight York and Andy Cole up front, but in a different way, in a different era, of course. We used to have that. We don't have that sort of thing anymore. Creating partnerships and creating a team. Now, Galacticos signings don't always bring you success, right? And I could give you a number of reasons why Man United have I've fought for the fashionable signings, the big names, the shirt sellers, and it hasn't worked out for Manchester United, has it? And Man United now, just like what Luis Enrique did when he walked into Barcelona, he actually brought in a couple of youngsters. Some players were unfashionable. Some players were like unknown, and he didn't go out there and buy Galacticos. Just remember, right? Luis Enrique didn't have Neymar, Ibrahimovic, Di Maria, Cavani. He didn't have these type of players, these superstars at Manchester United, at PSG. Lionel Messi, for example. He didn't have those players, but he's more successful than any other PSG manager. Why is that? He built a team. You have to build a team, not just say, I want this player because he's fashionable. I like Cole Palmer because he's, this and that. But talking about building a squad and he's good for the squad sort of thing for £100 million player. Where have you been for the last 25 years? I mean, 100 million for a squad player, basically. People saying, I'm like, what the hell? What's going on here? Absolutely crazy, isn't it? But let me know what you think anyway, guys. It is subjective, of course. But I would say that we should stay away from Cole Palmer right now, and we should concentrate on fixing this squad, in my humblest of opinions, rather than signing the superstar signings, if you know what I mean, and stuff like that, of course. Now, I want to bring in a player that we haven't mentioned on the show before. It's a rarity, of course, exclusive. Manchester United are targeting Benfica player Andreas Schjelderup. Andreas Schjelderup. Now, he is a Norwegian international, 9 caps for Norway, 1 goal. He's got 35 appearances this season, 7 assists and 4 goals. He's only 21 years old. He came from SC Nordsjælland. At FC Nordsjælland, he had 94 appearances, 27 assists, 17 goals at that tender age, guys. So look, I know what you're going to say, that it's Norwegian, it's Benfica and stuff like that. But when you look at these numbers from Andreas Schjelderup, that's Schjelderup. Andreas Schjelderup, when you look at these numbers, it's quite obvious that there is a huge talent there. There's a huge ability there because the numbers are astonishing at his age, right? So we're looking at 94 appearances for Norwegian, 27 assists, 17 goals, 35 appearances so far this season, 7 assists, 4 goals for Benfica. Now, this has alerted the attention of Manchester United, of course. Only 21 years old, left winger, by the way. He's not a striker, he's a left winger. So those numbers do double down on it. But again, I'm not going to flip-flop from what I've already said this morning about what should be the priority for Manchester United. Now, I don't mind if Man United go out there and sign an Andreas Schjelderup for 40 million and it helps the squad. Yeah, but when it's 100 million, that's when it becomes a problem. I would much rather Man United get these type of players than buy the Palmers and that right now, because at the end of the day, the Palmers are the icing on the cake, if you know what I mean. It's just like the Amandes, they're the icing on the cake, the 100 million player that you can put in just to add that little gloss onto it. Do you know what I mean? I think that is what it is. And I think Man United do need to look at the priorities in the team before they do anything else. But it's interesting that Man United are interested in Andreas Schjelderup. I like the player. I've watched the player. Very good, and for his age, an absolutely brilliant player. This is why I doubled down on the fact that Norway will be my dark horses for the World Cup this season, because they've got a few very good players there. They're absolutely probably the best Norwegian side in the last 40 years, I would say. Absolutely. Andreas Schjelderup, Benfica player linked to Man United, 9 caps for Norway. Absolutely big prospect in Norwegian football, in European football as well. And look, you know, these type of signings would be very shrewd and very mature, guys. Absolutely, rather than splashing out 100, 120 million on Carl Palmer, for example. I know Carl Palmer's proven. Carl Palmer's English, and he plays for Chelsea, and he's an England international. I know all that, but you pay for that, don't you? You pay for that. And, you know, I would say that it will take out a huge budget from Manchester United, in my opinion. Now, obviously, as I said, football's about objectiveness, and football's about subjectiveness, and football's about opinion. And it's about us having a debate here. But I would say this, right? Man United have brought in so many great attacking players over the years, right? But, you know, it never seemed to work out. You know, the big names, the Cavani's, the Ibrahimovic's, the midfielders, Schweinsteigers and things like that, even the Casemiros to an extent. But we've never actually gone out there and looked at the next up-and-coming player. Obviously, we've got Rasmus Højlund. I know that people are going to look at Rasmus and say, yeah, Rasmus, you know, Schjelderup and players like that are going to be like Rasmus and that. I wouldn't paint him with the same brush, to be honest with you. I felt we always brought Rasmus in too early. I always felt that when Rasmus Højlund played for Man United, when he signed for Man United, he never had a good goal-scoring record at Atalanta, by the way. He never had a good goal-scoring record. He never went over 10 goals. So what I would say is that was always going to represent a risk. But when you're looking at Andreas Schjelderup and players of that ilk, you look at their numbers, and their numbers are astonishing, even at that age. And obviously, you can tell that there's a huge talent there, you know, just by looking at the numbers and the amount of games he's played as well at that age. At Norwegian, he's got 94 appearances, guys. You know, he actually played for a football club before that, and he's got 27 assists and 17 goals. Those numbers at that age is incredible. Absolutely. Let me know what you think, guys. Absolutely. Let me know what you think. Good morning, Tyberg. Long time no see. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Welcome back to Stretford Post. Hope everything is blessed with you. Good to see you. Any news about Tonali? Now, look, obviously, the Tonali links are very strong. Man United are seriously looking at Tonali. But at the end of the day, right now, all we can say is that what Man United are going to do in the summer. Now, Man United, this new board, this Ineos and stuff like that, they don't seem to be as proactive as they should be. For example, in regards to Tonali, they're not being proactive. They're not getting the groundwork done. They're not behind the scenes working out a deal and things like that. They're not doing that. Unfortunately, even though they should be doing that, they're not doing that. And when I think about Tonali, I do understand that Tonali will be you know, linked to other clubs as well, including in Italy. But however, I do think that Italy a little bit financially strained in regards to how much he's going to cost. He's going to cost about 70 million, isn't he? I think Tonali would be an absolutely fabulous player for Manchester United. I do. And I actually think that he's in the top 5 of players that we can bring in that midfield. And these are the ilk of players that we need, you know, a Premier League proven Italian international at that right age as well, 25-ish. You know what I mean? It's that right age. And I think that will be a great signing for Manchester United. And he's versatile as well. I watched him the other night against Northern Ireland, run that midfield, scored a fantastic goal on the volley. And that's a key thing about Tonali. Tonali can score goals too. You know, he can get goals from midfield. And that's something that we've lacked as well. I know that Casemiro is doing the business, but I'm talking about, you know, when we used to have Roy Keane, right, he used to score about 10 goals in all competitions every single season. You know what I mean? Ndai would be great, but Diamani, Tonali, striker behind it, Anderson, Wharton, Murillo behind it. So many options. There's loads, David, my friend. There's loads of options, and all of those players that you mentioned would be great signings. They would be brilliant signings for Manchester United. The key is that we're being linked to talented players. That's the most important thing, my friend. You know, we're being linked to talented players. There's talented players that are being talked about. That's good. You know, that's good, because all those players you mentioned, mate, are very good players and would help Manchester United and would improve Manchester United, in particular in the Champions League and the League Cup and the FA Cup and the Premier League, of course. One thing I would say is that I do like the likes of Boadi. I do like the likes of Syed Omala. I like Keith Schmidt. I like these type of players. But I would like to bring in these type of players with the likes of Anderson, with the likes of Stiller. You know what I mean? These type of sides. So to complement the younger players and have experienced players, good players, world-class players, and complement them with the likes of Bawadi and Said Omala and players like that, Keith Schmidt, players of that ilk, Keenan Yildiz and things like that. And that, for me, would be building a team, you know, at the end of the day. That would be building a team to go forward for many, many years to come. Now, look, you know, as long as Man United keep being linked to talented players and not just players that are superstar, not just players that are names, should I say, are just names and not going to help the squad. As long as they're being linked to players that would help us in the future, I'm delighted with it, to be honest with you. And especially if we're looking at players that are going to help solidify our midfield, help fix the fullback areas. Because, guys, the fullback areas is just as important to the midfield, because at the moment we're looking at Dalot. Dalot's no way good enough. Luke Shaw needs to be gone. And obviously, what I would do, and guys, look, I'm going to do a video coming up later this week. Keep an eye out for it, on the team I think it should be next season. Now, Man United have got a lot of work to do, right? And being linked to these players is great. But I think that we need to start getting the groundwork done and start getting some agreements done in principle, talks with the agents, the entourage and stuff like that. Maybe if we can do that, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Ephraim, so what is your thoughts of Igor Tudor sacking? It was coming, mate. It was coming, Ephraim. He was losing too many games. Tottenham Hotspur in a precarious position. They're in a relegation battle. Now, speaking of, obviously, Igor Tudor and Tottenham Hotspur, Tottenham Hotspur, guys, are looking at bringing in Glenn Hoddle back. We all know Glenn Hoddle. Glenn Hoddle was the England manager in 1998, Nostalgia FC and stuff like that. Glenn Hoddle could quite possibly be coming back to Tottenham Hotspur. I actually think this will be a masterstroke. I really do. It reminds me of when Trevor Brooking went to West Ham. You know, Trevor Brooking, West Ham United legend, England legend, managed West Ham for a short period of time and saved them, to be honest with you. I think he saved them, didn't he? He was brilliant and he was winning games and stuff like that. I think Glenn Hoddle at Tottenham Hotspur would be absolutely fantastic. And obviously, Glenn Hoddle had health problems and stuff like that. But it's good to see him back. And I would love to see Glenn Hoddle back in the Premier League capacity. I don't really care about Spurs, but in the Premier League and footballing capacity, I would like to see Glenn Hoddle come back to the Premier League. I would like to see him back in football management, because I think he's actually a very smart manager. I felt it back in 1998. He was well above his years. He was a young manager back then. And he sort of changed things, to be honest with you, in regards to his tactics. And I actually felt he would have won that World Cup if the referee didn't send off David Beckham in that game. I actually think England would have won that World Cup. I think England would have tactically scored that World Cup. I thought that Glenn Hoddle was absolutely fantastic. And as the tournament went on, he got better and better in regards to his team selections and that. And I do think Glenn Hoddle would be a good move for Tottenham Hotspur. Do I think Glenn Hoddle would save Tottenham Hotspur? I think Glenn Hoddle has the best chance of saving Tottenham Hotspur. If Tottenham bring in another manager like Igor Tudor, it's not going to work. They're going to get relegated. Let me tell you that. And I don't care about Tottenham. I honestly don't. I like them better than Arsenal, but I don't care about Tottenham. But my advice to Tottenham right now is that they need to bring in someone of an element of respect. Now, obviously, we're looking at Igor Tudor. Igor Tudor has never been a fantastic manager. I was always shocked that they brought in Igor Tudor into the football club. I remember my opinion of Igor Tudor was when he was playing for Juventus or Croatia. Like, he was a good player as a player, but he was never a good manager. And I think that was a bit strange to bring in Igor Tudor. They should have brought in someone like Glenn Hoddle. You know, look, it's a bit like what Man United are doing at the moment. Now we brought in Michael Carrick. When you're bringing in a manager mid-season, the best thing you can do is bring in an ex-player. No, it's not long-term sustainability. And this is the thing that people don't understand. We have to obviously analyze everything in regards to ex-players as managers, but it does give the team a new manager bounce. It does give the team a new lease of life. Someone who knows the club, someone who's won things with the club. Do you know what I mean? Glenn Hoddle has, by the way, won things with Tottenham Hotspur, you know, and he was Tottenham Hotspur manager many, many years ago, of course, as we know. You know, so what I would say is that Tottenham Hotspur, Igor Tudor, it's disappointing. I don't like to see managers get sacked. It's sad, but he's going to be fine. Igor Tudor wanted to leave the first week, I think. The way his body language was, he wanted to leave the first week he was there. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, he's going to get a big pay packet now, isn't he? I think, wouldn't he? He'll get a little bit of money and he'd be happy with that. Absolutely. He's good. Don't worry about that. He'll go out there. He'll go on his yacht somewhere and he'd be fine. You know what I mean? This is the thing about it. Absolutely. And my brother, Marcus, what's going on, my friend? Hope you're doing well. It's really good to see you back in the house, my bro. Hope you're good. Good to see you. I hope you're having a fabulous Monday so far. Really good to see you. Absolutely. Look, guys, it's not as fun when Man United don't play, you know, and you know, we don't have much to talk about. We could talk about internationals and stuff like that. You know, we could talk about Ireland. We could talk about the problem with Ireland. Look, when I bring in Ireland, I haven't spoken about this, but when I bring in Ireland are a representation of how football has regressed. And let me tell you why. Because when I was growing up, Ireland had Dennis Irwin, Ireland had Roy Keane, Ireland had Andy Townsend. You know, and even further on when they had Robbie Keane, you know, when they had Tony Cascarino, you know, they always had a very, very good Paul McGrath, you know what I mean? And Steve Holton and Terry Phelan and things like that, you know. They always had a very good team. Now I'm looking at the Irish team and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what's happened to the Irish team? Where's the players? You know what I mean? Where's the world-class players? You know, you could talk about Evan Ferguson, maybe you could talk about these players and stuff, but where are the real ballers at that Irish team, you know, and that's what I'm talking about. Now, guys, I'm going to do a video, guys, moving it on. I'm going to do a video about Manchester United and the agenda against Manchester United. And this agenda involves Manchester United players. How, when we're talking about it, and I know it because I sit on various channels, other channels, I sit on there and they talk about the De Bruynes, they talk about the Vieiras, they talk about all the Haalands, the great players who play in the Premier League or have played in the Premier League. But I find it astonishing that every time we're talking about the Premier League and the greatest players in the Premier League, most of these content creators, I know they're not Man United fans, don't want to mention Man United players. I mean, it's not like we dominated football for 26 years, is it? At the end of the day, is it? And that's not just down to Alex Ferguson, by the way. Like comparisons to Manchester United players is different because it's not just about stats. It's not just about looking on Google or any sort of tactical website and called it, look, he's got that many numbers. He's got that, yeah, because he got a goal off his backside or a tap in and stuff like that. You've got to do the eye test and you've got to look at the impact in the game and stuff like that. And it's something that people these days, these tacticos people don't want to talk about because they will get stats to justify a narrative. That's what they do. They will get stats to justify a narrative to go against that player. Now, Dennis Irwin's the best left back in Premier League history, in my opinion. Players like Dennis, players like Steve Bruce, players like Gary Pallister, players like Ronnie Johnson, players like Jaap Stam, players like Vidic, players like Ferdinand are better than any defender right now. And that includes your Van Dijks. Right, and that's what I would say. And then you could talk about the right back. You could talk about Gary Neville. Okay, fair enough. Gary Neville, you could say, well, it wasn't one of the greats. Well, his statistics in regards to trophies do suggest differently. Beckham, you know, another one, underrated. You know, Dwight York, Andy Cole never took penalties. And this is what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do a video about this soon, later on this week as well, about how Manchester United players, ex-players, legends, have been swept under the carpet when it comes to picking the best players of all time. That's what I would say. Now, people try to compare Mohamed Salah to Cristiano Ronaldo. Mohamed Salah is a fantastic player, but Cristiano Ronaldo is on another level, my guy. You know what I mean? And people like to say, but look at his numbers, look at that numbers, look at this longevity. Cristiano Ronaldo played right midfield, left midfield for Man United, not top three, not up front, not a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, right? And he scored 40 goals in one season. That's what we're talking about here, right? So people don't look at the context of what Man United, the formation Man United used to play. Now, these days, if it was a 4-3-3, you'd be like, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo would be up front. Then it would be Andy Cole. It'd probably be like a Ryan Giggs on that top three up front, the 4-3-3. Do you know what I mean? And these people don't look at that in the context, because nowadays teams play the 4-3-3, or they played obviously the 4-2-3-1, things like that. So the formations are very different. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't play that formation. So Cristiano Ronaldo is the greatest player in Premier League history. It's regardless. I don't want to hear anything about it. Then, as you said, I can talk about Eric Cantona, and I can talk about these players who completely changed the landscape of English football, who can completely change the feel of English football. The mentality of English football was changed by Eric Cantona, of course. Howard, big up Howard. How you doing, my friend? Hope you're doing well. I'm early all week. We'll get to be with you live every day, brother. I hope you're well. Howard, it's good to see you, my friend. Good to see you, brother. I hope you're good. Hope you're having a fabulous Monday, of course. All the positive vibes, of course, guys. We're leading up to the game against Leeds United in a couple of weeks, though. It's a long time, isn't it? It's a long time to wait for a football game. We had this same thing when we played Newcastle, and we had to wait 10 days after that awful result. We had to wait 10 days for another game. It's crazy, isn't it? But big up, Howard. I hope you're doing well. Marcus, there's levels to this. To put Salah and Cristiano Ronaldo's name in the same, there's different levels, right? There's different levels in football. There's Messi, Ronaldo sort of level, Maradona sort of level, right? There's these sort of levels, right? Pele sort of level. Then there's the Paul Scholes and the how would I say it, the class players like Roberto Baggio's and Del Piero's and these type of players. You know, I would actually put Salah in that category of the Del Piero's, of the Nedveds, of this type of thing. I would do that. It would be Mohamed Salah in that category. The next category is a different level, right? And who would I put in the absolute elite level? Who would I do? I'll put Cristiano Ronaldo, I'll put Lionel Messi, I'll put Diego Maradona, I'll put Pele probably, but obviously that's a different thing. I'll put Cantona in there. I honestly would. And that is the elite level for me. You know what I mean? These players, these chuff monsters that just want to talk about what happened after 2002, they don't really understand before that. I don't want to learn about that. Don't want to learn the history about that. And then obviously people want to, I'm just talking about the Premier League era here. George Best, right? George Best would be way up there as one of the best players of all time, right? If George Best was playing right now, George Best transcends generations. If he was playing right now, George Best would be the best player in the world, mate. He'd be winning Ballon d'Ors, mate. And people don't want to mention these Man United greats. The thing is I just feel like we're in this era where people want to delete Man United, the history, and cancel Man United for some weird reason, of course. It's not going to happen. Man United greats will always be Man United greats. So when I'm sitting there on various other channels and I'm like, De Bruyne, stat merchants and stuff like that, not to take anything away from De Bruyne, but it's definitely not Cristiano Ronaldo, mate. Thierry Henry. Let's talk about Thierry Henry. Thierry Henry was an eye test player. For example, Thierry Henry didn't have the best stats in football, like in regards to the top 5, right? He didn't have the best. He wasn't the best assister. He wasn't the top scorer. He took penalties. Andy Cole has better stats, right? Andy Cole's a better player. But would I discount Thierry Henry? I wouldn't discount Thierry Henry. I wouldn't, because Thierry Henry, you can see logically by brain that he's a fantastic player. Is he in the ilk of the best Premier League player of all time? No, he's not. He's one of them, but he's not the best. Cristiano Ronaldo is the best, and there's other players who are better than him. Andy Cole was better than Thierry Henry. This is an awkward conversation for people, an awkward conversation. Then we talk about Ryan Giggs, right? And then people, when we talk about Ryan Giggs, even though he skimmed every single Arsenal team there was and absolutely made them cry, when we talk about Ryan Giggs, people go, oh, well, he played 600-700 games. This is when I get to the low ball knowledge sort of level, that you know, they talk about Roy Keane and say, well, he only kicked people. And as soon as they start saying things like that, Roy Keane dominated Patrick Vieira all his career. Patrick Vieira was always number 2 to Roy Keane. So what does that make Roy Keane, right? If you're putting Patrick Vieira in the top, I can give you numerous amounts of times Roy Keane schooled Patrick Vieira. I can give you numerous amounts of time Ryan Giggs skimmed some of the best players in the world. Ryan Giggs was better, right? And people just want to discount Ryan Giggs because he played loads of games for Man United and blah, blah, blah. Mate, Ryan Giggs is the best winger in Premier League history. The best winger, the best left foot in Premier League history was Ryan Giggs. In Premier League history was Ryan Giggs. And I don't want to hear anything other than that. The thing is that the hatred for Man United, it's just so generational. It's like, you know, I sit there. It's not about them downplaying the players. It's like they don't mention them. They don't want to mention them. It's almost like blasphemy. It's almost like, oh my God, you mentioned Paul Scholes. I'm going to have a heart attack. Oh, CPR. It's like that. You know what I mean? And that's what it is at the end of the day. Now, people seem to forget I've seen 13 titles at Man United. 13 titles at Man United. I've seen 2 Champions Leagues. We should have done better in Europe. And when I talk about football, I talk about football based on experience and seeing everyone. Right? I've seen everyone play football. I honestly think, guys, if a player like David Ginola, right, was playing now, he would be the best player in the league. He'd be the best player in the league. Let me tell you that right now. David Ginola, Gianfranco Zola will be the best player in the league. You see, I have no bones about picking some of the greats of the Premier League and praising some of the greats of the Premier League. But don't discount Man United. Don't discount Man United. Don't try and downplay Man United, because at the end of the day, we made the Premier League. All these people got these platforms. All these fake Man United fans who pretend to support Man United, truly but support Arsenal. Let me tell you something right now. Man United made this Premier League. What it is right now, they made it. Absolutely. Big up, Marcus. Agree, Sal. Comparing Salah to Ronaldo comparing Salah to Ronaldo is like comparing a Honda Civic to a Ferrari. Yeah, I mean, and Ronaldo's the Ferrari. These top tier names you mentioned, Sal, are all game changers. That separates them from the next tier. You mentioned, yes, Cantona, Pele, Cristiano, Messi. Exactly. Players that can take a team, right, and change the game completely. I don't see Cantona getting schooled against Real Madrid a couple of times in the Champions League final, by the way. I don't see Cantona going off injured because I hurt my shoulder. You know what I mean? By Ramos. I don't see that, at Man United. I don't see that happening with Man United legends. But, you know what I mean? This is what I'm talking about. There's levels to this game. There's levels to this game. There's levels to this dunya, of course. Ephraim, Sal, we have many world-class players. Rivals fans do not want to accept it. Rival fans, it's so frustrating because, I like to find logic. I like to find fairness in opinion and a balanced opinion. Of course, Manchester United cause a lot of people a lot of pain. There's 2 things, right? They're either too young to remember, or we cause them a lot of pain in their life, and either they've been bantered all their life by Man United fans and they can't take it and they're crying to their mums and things like that. Or, at the end of the day, they just basically hate Man United because the facts are there. You know what I mean? The facts are there. We're the most successful Premier League club of all time, etc., etc. Now, this is why I say, when I was growing up supporting Man United, I was very humble. I didn't really rub it into people's faces. I didn't become obnoxious. I wasn't arrogant or anything like that. But since we haven't been successful, I've realized something. I realized that when we do become successful, and guys, when we do become successful again, the cream will always rise to the top. I'm going to be the most unbearable Manchester United fan there is in the world, guys, because I'm telling you right now, I'm warning, guys. I'm giving you a warning. I'm going to be so unbearable. These people will not have me on their channel again. I'm telling you right now, because when I'm hearing about, players about Man United and players that actually played in an era that was actually good, world class. Guys, I could give you the treble winning team of 1998, 99. Look at the players back then. Look at the players that Man United had to face. Every single team, whether we played Ronaldo R9, whether we played Zidane, whether we had to play Edgar David, whether we had to play Del Piero, Inzaghi, there were players that Man United had to compete against. Whether we had to Carsten Janker, Oliver Kahn, Lizarazu, these Mateo Sammer. These things, Lothar Matthäus, these things. Do you know what I mean? And the players that Man United had to compete with back then, it's a different level, man. It's a different level. But when you say that, people would tell you, this is what people tell you. When you say that, people say, oh, stop talking about the past. It's the past. Stop talking about the past and things like that. Because Sal, most content creation is not more than 10 years old. And most of them speak of players who've played in the last 10, 12 years. So they sidestep the great players of Man United. But this is where football IQ comes in, LT. This is where intelligence comes in. This is where football IQ comes in. If I was a historian, right? If I liked, for example, if I was educated on books or educated on any subject, you name it, one of the biggest things that I would learn is the history of it, right? You would learn the history of it. For example, if you want to talk about the Premier League, would you not learn about the history of the Premier League? Would you not do that? When I became a Man United fan way back in the late 80s, guys, I was only a kid, right? I was only a kid, we didn't have technology. We didn't have YouTube, Google, social media, internet. We didn't have nothing like that. But I read books. I had VHS tapes to research the history of Manchester United, to research the history of the Premier League. I did that. That's one of the first things I did. Now, if you want to talk about the Premier League, but only base your Premier League knowledge after 2000, it takes away a huge part of your seriousness as a content creator, a football content creator and stuff like that. Your duty should be looking, researching, analyzing intensively, religiously, the players that played in the Premier League, the players that came before you, because the league did not start in 2010, guys. You know what I mean? All right. And when people talk about the great defenders, and I see people talk about great defenders all the time, not even a breath of Steve Bruce. Steve Bruce once scored 16 goals from defense in one season. 16 from defense in one season. But then I look at it and I think, well, this Man United, anti-Man United agenda has been going on for years. It even happened in the 90s, guys. Let me give you an example. Euro 96, right? Euro 96, Manchester United had just won the double, right? They just won the double with you can't win anything with kids. Was there Beckham in the squad? No. For Euro 96, right? Euro 96 was there. Was there Beckham in the squad? No. Was there Scholes in the squad? No. Was there Andy Cole in the squad? No. There was Stan Collymore, though, right? There was players like Barry Venison, Neil Ruddock, Jamie Redknapp, but there was no Beckham, but Philip Neville, Gary Neville, Cole, none of them. The only Man United player that got into that Euro 96 squad was Gary Neville. That was it. That was it. And that it shows you the anti-Man United agenda. Maybe if England in Euro 96 had more Man United players, they would have won the bloody tournament. Absolutely. Especially Andy Cole. There's a reason Rude Headed went off on modern football. The creativity of players has been repressed. So many talent that we grew up, Ginola, Okocha, Letizier, these kind of players. I'm telling you right now, this is why I said that if Southampton were in the Premier League right now, if Southampton were in the Premier League, I mean the Southampton of the 90s with Matt Letizier, they would probably get in the Champions League. And that's what I'm talking about. Absolutely, mate. JJ Okocha, one of my favorite players of all time. He's one of the players I want in a Man United. We could talk about Juninho of Middlesbrough. You remember Juninho of Middlesbrough? That sort of thing, of course. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, here we go. Look, let's be honest. Man United is the most overrated and overhyped team in English history. Arsenal comes second. Everything about these two clubs feels manufactured and fake. Let me just tell you something about football, because you don't really have football knowledge, my friend, even though your name is Football Knowledge. How ironic. I'm waiting for Lannis Morissette to walk through the door. Let me tell you something about manufactured, right? Manufactured, 1958. Man United had the Munich air disaster, right? 5 years later, we're winning the league. 10 years later, we're winning the Champions League, the European Cup, the first English club to do it, by the way. Real Madrid dedicated the European Cup to Manchester United, even though it wasn't official. Right? You want to talk about manufactured, mate. You want to talk about manufactured. Man United are football, mate. We are football. We're the epitome of football. We're the epitome of spirit and character. That's what we are, mate. So you want to say Man United are manufactured. Arsenal are not manufactured. Arsenal are a great football team. They're not manufactured. Do you know who is manufactured? Can I tell you who's manufactured? Chelsea and Man City are manufactured. You could say they're manufactured, but Man United have always done things organically. So please explain your point to me, mate. Please explain it to me. We built everything organically, mate. Right? Organically. Waitrose organic section, mate. This is not Lidl's, mate. You know what I mean? Where we get things quickly and cheaply. I mean, this is Man United we're talking about. You know, so Matt Busby we're talking about. George Best we're talking about. Bobby Charlton we're talking about. You know, you see, this is the thing about football knowledge, my unknowledgeable friend. When you speak blindly, you get mic dropped, mate. You know, because at the end of the job, you're speaking in a place of hate. You're not speaking in a place of logic. Kaput. Nice one. Absolutely. Marcus, you mentioned Baggio Del Pio. Yes, where the new creative players. I remember Totti, Sola. And these are the things. This is the thing, Marcus. A lot of these players that you're mentioning there, a lot of these players that you're talking about, right, weren't even like playing for the big teams like Juventus, and stuff like that. But Totti, Roma, and things like that. These players would be the best players in Europe right now. And that's what I'm talking about. That's where I'm talking about and where things get different. Sal, one player I wish we could have held on for longer and watch him was beast mode, was Jaap Stam. Yeah, he was the demon gatekeeper in the defense. Watch that Marco Omen shrink in front of him. I remember V, big up V, I hope you're doing well. I remember when Jaap Stam was playing in the Champions League in 1998-99, and I remember Zamorano. And Zamorano, guys, even Zamorano was a magnificent striker, guys. Let me just tell you that right now. One of the best. Chilean international, unbelievable. People know that Chile team, know about even Zamorano and Marcelo Salas, right? People know that, right? But let me tell you something, right? There was a game, Inter Milan against Man United, first leg at Old Trafford. Jaap Stam stands, Zamorano's backing into Jaap Stam. Jaap Stam just moves his chest out, and Zamorano sort of like this. He does this and that, you know, he's like, whoa. He was just an unbelievable. We sold him too early, yes, and obviously I felt it was a little bit out of order. Alex Ferguson had his favourites. Alex Ferguson was a little bit harsh on some players. He was harsh on Beckham. He was harsh on Jaap Stam. I won't criticise Alex Ferguson too much because he was successful even after that. He was, but I felt like we missed Jaap Stam for many years. We did, and Jaap Stam obviously went to Lazio, but then he went to AC Milan and won a Champions League. You know what I mean? Jaap Stam was an absolute phenomenal player, and him is better than Van Dijk, mate. But they won't mention that. They won't mention that. He was a lot better than Van Dijk. All the twerking and that from Van Dijk. It's funny that even in punditry, the ex-players who have titles on their names are Man United players. So it pisses me off when they do all these ex-11s and you don't see Man United players because it's jealousy, mate. You know, there's a thing at Man United. Man United were very competitive, right? And there were some players in the Man United squad who didn't even like each other, but they played with each other. And they still, to this day, don't like each other. Teddy Sheringham and Andy Cole, for example. There's a lot of players that played at Man United back then, but they didn't like each other. Do you know what I mean? And stuff like that. So, you know, it just beggars belief because it just makes me feel like they're trying to make one Manchester club or something like that and just trying to delete the history of Manchester United, even though we put the league on the map. Absolutely. Big up LT. Come on, Football Night. You must be he is trolling. He's not getting any more comments from me. He got scored, mate. I think he's got scored. I don't want to score him anymore because he's been hurt, and I don't want to school people anymore, my friend. When you talk about when you talk about things and that about football, and you talk about knowledge about Man United, I'm not talking about Arsenal here. I'm talking about Manchester United. You need to put respect on the name, right? There was no corruption at Man United, mate. There was no side money at Man United, mate. You could talk about Arsenal in the 1920s and that buying their place in the league. I know what you're talking about, but you can't talk about Man United, mate. Man United are one of the greatest football clubs in history, mate. You know, but again, if he's trolling, he's not going to get another comment anyway. So, you know, I mean, I've given you the time, mate. You've been schooled. I'm sorry, man. Absolutely. All these English are overpriced. Once we show interest in the prices going 100 million, I prefer players from Europe. Irene, I wouldn't say that. I would say that happens in every club, every player that you go after. Diamante's 100 million. He's in the Bundesliga, mate. You know, I wouldn't say that. It's not just about English players. English players, you do have English tax because they play in the Premier League, but you get that in La Liga as well. If you're in La Liga and if you're Barcelona trying to buy a Real Betis player or something like that. But look at for example, I've mentioned a number of players here. For example, Diamante, 100 million. He's 100 million. Morgan Rogers is probably better than Diomande, but he'll be less than 100 million. So it's not always about the English tax and all that, because there are players in the Bundesliga right now being criminally overpriced about it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. What's going on, Tess? Good to see you. Football knowledge, 1976. You don't know about these two clubs. You should be change your name to 2016. He don't know about these two clubs. I think I know him from before anyway. He don't know his history. If you're saying that Man United are manufactured, then I think you should go home and go to bed, really, because what we're doing here. Man United are one of the greatest football teams. They are the reason for football of all time. And I would also put Liverpool in that category as well. Liverpool built football up. Man United built football up. They both built football up, all due respect. Arsenal did have their history in the 1920s, but they did build up the Premier League. When the Premier League came about, they didn't get manufactured with this, right? They didn't, right? So you give respect where respect is due, mate. You give respect to the clubs that built football. Ask anyone. I'm in Italy at the moment, in Napoli, right? I can ask anyone about Man United. Man United, they will talk about the greats of Man United, right? They won't talk about the greats of Man City. They'll talk about the greats of Man United and stuff like that. And the thing is, please do your research about Man United, mate. Do your research. And this is exactly what I'm saying when I'm talking about people who are ill-informed, misinformed about the history of football in general. This is exactly the vibe I'm talking about. You know, this is why I can get any player on this channel. And I've had loads of ex-footballers on this channel, by the way, and pundits and journalists, and talk about football for hours. I can, because, you know, we look at things from all different angles and what is real and what isn't. There's only a couple of manufactured teams in the Premier League right now. There's Man City, there's Chelsea. They were manufactured. Chelsea were in the lower ends of the Premier League in the 1990s. They were no different to Crystal Palace in the 1990s. In fact, they were even worse than that. Man City were championship side. In 98-99, Man City were playing in the playoff final against Gillingham, and they won it on penalties. You know, that's what I'm talking about. That's now where they are. It's because they were manufactured, right? Man United were not. And this is something that most people and most football fans should understand. FM, 16 likes from 50, guys. Guys, we need to get to 50 likes. We need to get to 50 likes. That's what we need. Absolutely. The EPL also has the most lucrative TV contract that kills all the other 5 leagues combined, hence the inflated prices of players. So if teams are going to pay, nothing can be done about this for now. Not necessarily to do with the TV rights, mate. Players are expensive everywhere, mate. I've just said that, Marcus. Players are expensive everywhere. And everywhere. It's nothing to do with the Premier League. It's nothing to do with Premier League. As I said, Diomande is 100 million, right? If you want to go out there and get Diomande, you're going to pay 100 million. If you want to go out there and get Kenan Yildiz from Juventus, it's going to cost you 100 million, right? The most expensive, most valuable players are not in the Premier League. They're in Spain. They're in Italy. Yeah, they're not in England. And this is one thing I would say. Anderson's expensive, but Anderson's 70, 80 million. But Anderson has earned the right to be 70, 80 million. I'm going to mic drop all this English stuff. Anderson is 70, 80 million. Anderson's earned the right to be 78 million, playing in the best league in the world, which is the Premier League, right? The Premier League is successful because they accumulated money, because the best league in the world. It's the most entertaining league in the world. How can Anderson be 60, 70, but Diomande is playing in a pub league in the Bundesliga be 100 million? You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. You know, who Bayern Munich win it every year. I can win the league with Bayern Munich. I'm not even exaggerating, guys. I can manage Bayern Munich and win the league. Carrick can win the league for Bayern Munich if he went there. Do you know what I mean? That's why it beggars belief that Michael, people want company to go to Man City and manage Man City, because I think, well, Michael Carrick will win the league for Bayern Munich. Do you know what I mean? And things like that. You know, it's ridiculous. Big up, Aman. How you doing? So I just think in general, as a package, as a whole, football has been over-extortionate and saturated. Football is expensive. You know, I can get the players that I've mentioned, like all the players in Europe that I've mentioned. You know, you've got Aya Boyoldi, right? Let me give you an example here. Aya Boyoldi is not proven in the major league. He's in the French league, right? Great player, great prospect. It's going to cost you 60, 70 million. Easy. And this is what we're talking about, you know, but how can a player like Aya Boyoldi be that price, but Anderson be the same price? Do you know what I mean? So we have to look at this. Do you know what I mean? You know, at the end of the day, I hope football returns soon. Well, football is on. I'm doing a watch along between Italy and Bosnia tomorrow in the playoff final, guys. So that whoever wins that qualifies for the World Cup. So I will be doing that. I will be doing that, my friend. And yeah, I look forward to it. That's the only thing we've got at the moment. We got the FIFA series. They got a number of games going on in international football. But we got the World Cup qualifiers as well. So that's important. So whoever goes to the World Cup and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? Now, look, obviously the World Cup has been expanded. I'm going to bring in the World Cup here. The World Cup has been expanded to loads of teams. And a lot of people are saying, oh, some of the World Cup games are so boring. Look, if you don't like the World Cup, if you don't like watching other teams other than normal big teams because it doesn't get you likes and clicks, don't watch it. Don't watch it. I done the AFCON and people are saying, don't do the AFCON. AFCON is just a waste of time. And What? So basically, this is the analogy that some people do, right? This is the analogy of it, right? They think just because it's not Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, or the Premier League, they don't want to watch it. Let me tell you that right now, right? I'm watching the World Cup. I'm going to do bloody Jordan against whoever it is. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? I'm going to do bloody Caracas against Croatia, whatever. I'm going to do it. You know what I mean? This is football for me. I love football, and people love football. Don't downplay certain tournaments. Don't downplay nations. They don't downplay nations. I wanted to do the playoff with Iraq and Bolivia tomorrow, but it's on at 5 a.m. where I am. I wanted to do that. That's how I love football. You know what I mean? This is how I love football. But some people, they love their likes and clicks, and they know that if they do that game, it's not going to get as many likes, not going to get many clicks, and this is the problem with them. You know, I did the AFCON proudly, enjoyed it. I've always watched the AFCON since I was a child, since it was on Eurosport in England, right? And I used to watch it. It used to sometimes be on Channel 5, and I used to watch it. Do you know what I mean? Marcus, yes, you're right, Salbo, trying to make this, the EPL is the only league that can afford these prices, maybe Bayern and a handful of other European clubs. But the Premier League is extremely rich, yeah, because of the brand. The brand is extremely good. The football is extremely good. And who made this brand good? Can I be honest with you guys? Who made the Premier League good? And it's not to do with these days, guys. Who attracted potential billionaires to purchase Man United, to purchase the Premier League, to purchase teams in the Premier League? Who was the attraction? Who put the Premier League on the map? You can lie. You can lie. You can hide it. Man United put the Premier League on the map, right? When Chelsea were purchased by Roman Abramovich didn't like football, right? Until Roman Abramovich went to Manchester United against Real Madrid in 2003. What was the score? 4-3. Ronaldo hat-trick, R9. Abramovich fell in love with football. Abramovich was looking for a Premier League club. He saw Chelsea. He purchased Chelsea. Thank you, Chelsea. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. There you go, right? All the billionaires that come into the Premier League, all the money, all that, it's thanks to Man United. You know, it's thanks to Man United, and these and obviously the rivalries with Man City and with the rivalries with Arsenal and Blackburn and Newcastle played a part, of course. You know, but Man United are the ones who put the Premier League on the map. They built the brand. They built English football when English football was in the mud. What time is that, dude? What do you mean? Tomorrow I'm going to be live about. Just keep your notifications on, mate. I'll pull it up on the post. It's going to be in the evening, where I am in Europe. I have to go now. Thank you so much, Paul. Big up yourself. Good to see you. International tournaments have the best storylines. I enjoy major football tournaments. Look, at the end of the day, there's no football one during the summer. There's no football one during the summer. So look, just show some respect, man. Show some respect. You know, like taking the piss out of countries. You know, and it really does annoy me. And you know who they are, guys. It really does irritate me. You know, it's disrespectful. You know, and yeah, well, it is what it is. But you know what's going on. No, I'm not on holiday, man. I'm not on holiday. I'm not on holiday. Guys, I want to thank everyone who continues to support the channel. You're absolute legends. Please, guys, before I finish, don't forget to like the video on the way out, because I need 50 likes every single morning, guys. And it helps the algorithms and it helps to get the video to other places and stuff like that. Also, please don't forget to put your notifications on. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, all that jazz. It's good to be kind, guys. I want to thank everyone again. And guys, keep your notifications on. LT, when it comes to international tournaments like the World Cup, Euros, AFCON, etc., every game is worth watching. And I agree with you that we shouldn't downplay nations. LT, we know who's downplaying nations, don't we? And they have massive platforms, right? They want to downplay nations. They want to downplay the AFCON. They want to downplay certain teams like Jordan in the World Cup. They want to downplay it. You know what I mean? And it's disrespectful, man. It's disrespectful. And those people want to keep doing that. I am delighted the likes of Caracas, the likes of Jordan, the likes of Iraq, maybe, the likes of these countries are going to be in the World Cup. Of course I am. Who cares if they get slapped up? Who cares? I'm glad they're in the World Cup. I'm glad. Gets a chance to look at other players. Do you know what I mean? That shows you where people's allegiances lie. When people talk about like this, about nations, about AFCONs, about World Cups and lower teams in the World Cup, it just shows you they don't love football. They love themselves. They love their likes and clicks. That's what they love. They don't love football. I love football. I play on the park, on the concrete any day. I watch football. I analyze football. I scout football. These people only love themselves when they talk about that on their platforms. But guys, thank you. Really appreciate you all. Have a great day, great night, great evening, wherever you are in the world. I will be back later on, of course, for Chatterbox, of course, because I'm doing a watch along tomorrow afternoon, evening for Bolivia and Italy, guys. So not Bolivia and Italy, sorry, Bosnia and Italy, guys. Absolutely. Howard, all good, mate. Yeah, too long until we play next, mate. Looking forward to the bank holiday. Just gutted we are not playing this week. Absolutely. We need a big summer followed by a big season. Thanks for your shout, mate. Absolutely. Anytime, Howard. Good to have you here, my friend. I'm not in the UAE anymore. I'm actually in Italy at the moment, Arman. I'm in Italy. I'm Naples, Napoli. I won't be in UAE for the time being. Whilst I'll let everything calm down first and I'll go back. Guys, thank you. Absolute legends. Take it easy. See you soon, guys. And don't forget to support the channel. Take it easy. Peace.